shill. A shill for sure.
That's right. Chris Shillzilla, he's been up to no good once again. I still believe, are the internet's most consistent source of Chris Shillzilla coverage. Probably even more coverage than his own network ever thought would happen. But here's the thing. He's back at it again, and it's the midterms, and so he's got some very important things to say, Chris Shillzilla, over at CNN. So I'm heading over to CNN.com in the politics section, and analysis by Chris Shillzilla, headline, "This Democratic leader just broke the first rule of politics."
Ooh,
the first rule of politics.
What is the first rule of politics? I don't even know what that is.
I was going to ask you. Do you
know?
Don't. Are you aware?
I don't. I am politically ignorant. I stay out of these conversations.
Well, good. It's good to learn. This will be a learning moment. The first rule of politics, it was broken by this Democratic leader. What does Chris have to say? He says this. Rule number 1 of politics goes like this. Don't compare anything to Nazi Germany. Just don't. Huh.
That's rule number 1?
Rule number 1. It sounds like
very contemporary. I thought we were getting the rule. I thought we were getting the wisdom of the ages, political discourse. But no, this is a more recent development here.
This is the wisdom of the ages. Okay. Don't compare anything to Nazi Germany. Just don't, says Chris. Okay. He goes on. South Carolina Representative Jim Clyburn, the third-ranking Democrat in the House, broke that rule over the weekend in an interview with Fox News.
Direct competitors.
Ooh. Yeah. Well, see, this is a very interesting, you kind of start to deconstruct. We've been seeing how CNN has been changing recently under the new ownership, the new vision, and yet how the classic sort of spiritual ancestry of CNN, which is mainly not to really report any factual news or add any constructive analysis to any current event, but strictly to become some sort of infotainment profitable corporation. And as we sort of analyzed last episode, I truly believe that CNN wants Donald Trump to win because it is the most, and maybe not even wants, is fiduciarily obligated to do what they can to help Donald Trump win. Why? Because they are number one, they are a profit-seeking corporation, and their first responsibility is to make the most possible money for their shareholders. And what sort of world is conducive to CNN being profitable? One with Donald Trump at the helm.
Well, also
keep
one,
that in mind.
Also one with a Fox News that is conveniently at least framed as sort of the opposition.
They need their foil.
Right.
Again, back to the professional wrestling comparison.
Yeah.
They need their foil. They need the kayfabe to be alive and well. And even with, remember, one of the guys who's in charge of CNN now through the new Warner Time Media, whatever it's called, ownership
takeover, yeah, is
one of the guys who started Fox.
Oh.
So one of the guys who started Fox is now on the top levels of CNN. Mm-hmm. So, you could see how he's familiar with the sort of illusion that he's trying to create.
The student is trying to slay the master, and he's using Chris Shillzilla as its puppet.
Well, that's even giving it too much credit. I think, as far as the news media theater, I don't think there's any real enemies around here. But there you go.
Well,
so
that's what I'm saying. That's the theater. And Chris is
right
the
off
puppet.
Right off the bat, they are saying, don't compare anything to Nazi Germany. Okay, CNN. And calling out the third-ranking Democrat in the House in an interview he did on Fox. Oh, the scene is set, guns. In the interview, Clyburn was pressed on comments he made last week that the U.S., quote, is on track to repeat what happened in Germany.
Oh, boy.
Quote, The facts are very clear, Clyburn said on Fox News Sunday. I've studied history all my life. I've taught history, and I'm telling you, what I see here are parallels to what the history was in the world back in the 1930s in Germany and Italy. It's kind of a wordy explanation, but okay. So he's very concerned.
Yeah.
This is not the first time we've heard all this.
Well,
this is
I was going to say that I think there was a Canary Cry Radio episode where I forget who we interviewed, but somebody early on made that exact same point on an interview. Oh, yeah. I don't recall who it is, but it was a very early interview. I'm trying to look it up. But anyway, continue.
Okay. So it goes on. Clyburn went on to note that voting for, quote, election deniers and liars amounts to supporting the same sort of structures that led to the rise of fascist states in Germany and Italy. Clyburn was also asked another recent comment in which he said, quote, losing this democracy very well could be the end of the world.
Oh my gosh. That's very, very intense.
Voting for Republicans could very much mean the end of the world.
Oh my gosh.
Quote, and then he goes back. Nobody's saying the world is ending. No. Democracy will be ended, which I love.
Will be ended.
Voting, by the way, voting for the wrong people in an election will end democracy, Clyburn says. Added Clyburn of an election where those who denied the 2020 results wind up winning. Weird. Because I remember a different group of people being election deniers in 2016. But okay, we're besides the point. Quote, the world would continue to exist. All right.
Thank you.
So matter and exist
and time
and being
continues.
And time would all still exist. The world would continue to exist. The world was here before Hitler. The world was here after Hitler. This guy is high.
This guy's
on
definitely
something.
On something.
He's like, I'm going on Fox. I'm going to take 2 pills today and just see what happens.
That is.
And Chris goes on.
Okay.
Chris goes on, which is really saying something. Pressed again on his end of the world remark.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
A lot of interruptions here,
Gonzo. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just thinking that this quote about the world continues to exist, the world was here before Hitler, the world is, it's saying nothing with words, it's just really saying nothing. Yeah. And then Chris's commentary that he's not saying anything is also not saying anything. Do you understand what I'm saying? Chris saying, which is really saying something, which is nothing. Anyway, continue. I'm sorry. I got triggered.
That's very deep. Yeah, no, I like it. Pressed again on his end of the world remark, Clyburn said he misspoke. Before we go any further, it's worth noting here that comparing anything to the Nazi regime, which led to systemic murder of more than 6 million Jews, is a mistake. It just is. There is nothing in our current moment that suggests we are anywhere close to that. Okay. So, of course, we've seen one side make just not even a habit. It's just almost it's a compulsion for the past few years to call Donald Trump, Hitler, the Republicans, Nazis, the whole fascist thing. This is again, not a habit. This is a compulsion. They can't even help themselves. And Chris is coming by and saying, no, saying this ever is just a big mistake. And I think this might be related to the fact that, these types of comparisons could be made in all sorts of other ways. That is becoming clearer and clearer to even your average Democrat. So I think this is it's almost a version of the pandemic amnesty that we've been seeing, So I kind of see this as similar to the article asking for pandemic amnesty. This is kind of like asking for, the Hitlerian. What is the phrase?
Plausible deniability kind of thing.
No. The phrase that means, the conversation ends once you bring up Hitler. Oh, it's like Hitlerium ad absurdum or something like that. Yeah. Anyways, so it's kind of asking for amnesty from all this Nazi talk. That's how it reads, at least. But he continues. There is nothing in our current moment that suggests we are anywhere close to that. Anything? There's nothing. CNN, Chris Shillzilla, coming out saying there is nothing in our current moment that suggests we are anywhere close to Nazi Germany. That is quite the turn of attitude coming from CNN. He continues, that doesn't mean, however, that democracy is not under real threat. It is. There are people who deny that the 2020 election was free and fair, running for top position in states from Arizona to Michigan to Pennsylvania. That's weird. I think he messed something up there. There are people, who deny. Okay, there we go. Yeah, he's talking about deniers. Not mentioning 2016 deniers, but that doesn't matter. Not all of them will win, but some likely will. And it's hard to imagine that the same people who denied the fairness of the 2020 election without any proof might not do the same if the 2024 election doesn't go their way. That represents a serious threat to our way of life. After all, we can't accept that our leaders were fairly elected and have faith in the system. It's very hard to imagine how we can expect anyone to effectively govern. Which is bad. Very bad! Exclamation mark. Thank you, Chris. But it's also worth remembering that democracy held in 2020, even while it was under active assault from Donald Trump and his minions. Ooh. We absolutely should be vigilant about the potential rise of authoritarian politicians who would wipe out things like the rule of law to further their own political ambitions. Not like, Joseph Robinette Biden signing 60 some odd executive orders, including the executive order canceling student debt, which is not in his authority to do, and using it politically to demonize Republicans for trying to uphold the rule of law. No. We're talking about Trump, of course. And then he ends with this, but let's stop making the Nazi Germany comparison for all of our sakes. Okay, so Hitler comparison amnesty being advocated by Chris Shillzilla. And much like the pandemic amnesty requests of the past, well, you gotta think that the person making the request
might be
will benefit from this sort of thing.
The thing they're trying to distance themselves from.
So I went digging because of course we know that Chris has made this exact comparison. And I went back and went ahead and, did exactly that. In July 5th of just last year, Chris Shillzilla, headline, Donald Trump just accidentally told the truth about his disinformation strategy. And we've seen this, I'll spare you the whole thing, but he makes the whoopsie like in the first paragraph. And it goes like this. July last year. If you listen to him long enough, no easy chore, Donald Trump will tell you all his secrets. Witness this line from his July 3rd speech in Sarasota, Florida. Quote, if you say it enough and keep saying it, they'll start to believe you. Trump was talking about alleged disinformation directed at him and other Republicans. But wow, does that quote explain everything you need to know about his approach to the presidency and life? Sidebar. Chris goes into a sidebar, parenthetical. One can only hope that Trump was unaware that his quote was near a replication of the infamous line from Nazi Joseph Goebbels, which is, quote, if you tell a big lie long enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. And right there, big lie, we saw big lie be another compulsive phrase being used by Democrats and the mainstream media to explain Donald Trump's behavior, the big lie, the big lie, the big lie, which is a direct comparison to Nazi Germany. So Chris Shillzilla himself, just last year, making the exact comparison, he is shaming Democrat Republicans for doing this year, which is just fun. Coincidentally, nice little detail for Chris here. Chris, and I know, Chris, if you're not watching directly, we know somebody's reporting. We can't, you can't ignore the most consistent and adoring reports on your career on the internet. So we know somebody is getting back to him. But recorded in this Insider article here is the fact that this exact CNN article was mentioned specifically in Trump's letter threatening to sue CNN. So it was not just that Chris Shillzilla.
I was wondering why they wouldn't just edit that little side note out.
Well, that's what I was thinking too. I thought maybe they would have gone back and edited it and updated it.
Yeah.
And indeed, that article has been updated since its immediate release, but they kept that part in there. And yeah, they can't edit it because that exact article is part of why Trump was suing or threatening to sue CNN. It says specifically, among the offending CNN articles cited in Trump's letter this week is one from a year ago, an analysis in which the editor at large, Chris Shillzilla, quoted Trump. Yes. Trump specifically is calling out Chris Shillzilla, quoted Trump telling rally goers in Sarasota, Florida, if you say it enough, keep saying it, it'll start to believe you. And they even quote the article, quote, Trump was talking about alleged disinformation, goes into the whole thing and how he talks about Joseph Goebbels. So, Chris, we're on to you, buddy. We're paying attention. Don't worry. You've got at least us reading your articles, and we remember. That's a tough thing about being, a reporter is once you write something, you can't unwrite it. And I'm pretty sure we actually covered that story on the show when it actually happened. So we're on to you, Chris. And look, we get it. Y'all are kind of shaking in your boots about all the ways you've acted over the past couple of years. But I don't know if this type of amnesty is coming your way.
We'll see, but it seems like they're doing they are starting the cleanup job. It feels like
it is a literal cleanup job. Not even just ignoring the things that they said in the past, but specifically kind of indirectly asking for forgiveness.
Well, and also media. I think maybe, well, he's mentioned in that the paper. So, but I was going to say that maybe he has some, because he's not a politician technically, he's just a guy.
Yeah, I thought about that.
Opinion guy. So maybe he has some layers of protection, but
I think he wants us to think that way. And I think that's why, a good point. I think that's why he specifically made the headline, it's the first rule of politics. Okay. It's not the first, right. It's not the first rule of political reporting,
political vlogging.
He considers himself a political reporter. He's even said it out loud on his podcast. He considers himself a political reporter, of course, not a politician. So a political reporter can make the comparison. Maybe he's going to hide behind that. But either way, he's asking at least everybody else to stop making the Nazi Germany comparison. There you go. There's a little update on Chris.
Great.